at one point in my life, I felt like I was pretty much living on autopilot. I would wake up and I remember I would just go through the motions. There was a time when I was just waking up and then just saying to myself, oh man, damn, like another Monday morning. And I would just dread thinking about going through the day. And then I remember I would just wake up, go to the bathroom, and then I would take a shower, and then I would just watch some TV, some sports, catching up on sports. I would watch a lot of sports. I would drown myself in sports because sports was something that would save me from my boredom. I felt like sports was a priority in my life. I remember at times I would go watch boxing matches, and sometimes I would be waiting for the boxing match to happen. It would be March, and then, oh my God, the fight's going to happen in September. And all I could think about was, oh, I can't wait till the fight happens, or I can't wait until the weekend. I can't wait actually until Thursday. I remember I used to on Thursdays go to two for ones at this bar that they had the specials, and then I would have then Friday nights go out, Saturday nights, and then Sundays chill for a little bit, still have some beers, have a cookout, and then Monday night football would happen, have some beers there. Tuesday and Wednesday would probably be the only day that I would really take it easy. And then the other days I would also smoke marijuana, I would do drugs, I would drink a lot of alcohol. That was my routine throughout the week. And I remember I also hated my job. I did not like my job. I was extremely unhappy with my job. I worked at call centers for over a decade. I really don't know how I survived. And, man, much love to anybody that works at call centers because I did it for over a decade. And honestly, I was losing my mind the whole time. I just was being just saying to myself, oh, well, this pays the bills. I don't know anything else. And I remember a time when I had just resigned. I was just like, you know what? I guess this is what life is going to be about. I guess this is what I was destined to be. I guess this is all there is. And I gave up on myself. There was a moment in time when I said, this is going to be my life. I guess I'm going to be working call center jobs for the rest of my life. And that's it. And man, just to reflect back on that, to think about that right now, it was so painful for myself to just be going through the motions. And at times, even feeling guilty for not feeling satisfied, for not feeling happy. I even had family telling me, man, you got to be thankful. Hey, you have a house, you have a car, you have a good paying job, you're paying the bills, you have a good family. But deep down inside in my heart, I was not happy, but I felt I had to be happy. And in a way, I just kind of conformed. And in a way, I just kind of gave up and said, okay, I guess I have to be grateful and I guess I have to be happy. But in my heart, I knew that there was more, that I could do more. And I wasn't satisfied in my heart. And I don't know if you've ever felt that way, if you feel that way right now. But if you do feel something tugging at your heart that there's got to be more to this life than just this, you're absolutely right. And you really need to listen to that voice because a lot of people do not listen to that voice. And I was that person for many years that I was not listening to that voice. I was just ignoring that voice and I was just thinking, okay, I give up. I guess this is what my life is going to be. So for you, think about like just your life. And I want you to identify areas in your life where you're just going through the motions. And when you identify this, what is something that you can do to change it up a little bit? It doesn't have to be something drastic, it doesn't have to be something extreme. For me, I know that what I did was I started to change what I was watching, what I was listening to. I was just listening to a lot of negativity online, or I was watching a lot of negativity on TV or online. I was watching a lot of news, and the news kept me stuck. It kept me feeling sad, or it kept me feeling scared. I had a lot of fears because of that. So for you, what is that thing that is just got you going through the motions? And what can you do to start changing that part of your life that's just going through the motions? take a moment to just write that down, just one thing for now. And then eventually, as you start writing more, one thing down, then you'll write another and another. And it's just a matter of just building momentum and continuously keep doing that. I encourage you to, whenever you're feeling down or you feel like you're going through the motions, take a moment to just write about it and think, okay, what area am I just going through the motions? And what can I do to change this part of my life? Now, the next thing that I want to talk to you about is the things that I changed up was when I changed the news and listening to the same music that I would listen to all the time. I changed that for motivational audios. And I remember that I I was listening to this audio and this guy just came on and I remember that this audio a friend of mine had given it to me. He sent me a link and I was being negative. I was thinking, oh, this is probably some motivational crap. Like this is probably not gonna work. What what am I doing? Even thinking about listening to it. But there was a time in my life where I was down and out, where I was just like had given up completely and I felt like I needed help in that moment. I felt like I was just drowning in my thoughts. And I remember throwing in an audio, and this guy just came on and he just really made me think. And his name is Les Brown. And this guy, he said, many people will leave the universe without a trace. And under their name, you can put not used up. And man, that hit me right in the heart. I said, man, he's talking about me. I know that I have not been used up to my full potential. I know that I'm capable of doing more. And when I heard this, I just said, wow, what did I just discover? What did I just listen to? And then that's when I decided to just continue listening to these audios. I would even tell people, man, you got to check this out. And people would look at me like if I was crazy, man. Like they were just like, what's going on with you on this? Have you gotten religious or what's going, is something wrong? And no, man, I said, I'm just really motivated. I'm really excited about this stuff. And I remember that when I listened to these audios, they started to make me think about like goals and dreams that I had ever since I was 12 years old. And ever since I was 12 years old, I wanted to be a stand-up comedian. And I decided to start doing stand-up comedy. And I'll be honest, man, I really sucked. Like I was terrible. I was not good at comedy. I remember people, you could just hear the crickets. The first time I ever went up there, nobody laughed. Everybody was just staring at me like, what's wrong with this guy? And it was so embarrassing that first night. And I wanted to give up. I wanted to give up that first night. I wanted to give up the second night, the third night, the fifth night. And after a while, I would tell myself, it's all right. Like I'm still living, like I didn't die. It was embarrassing as hell, but I'm okay. I'm not dead. So I'm gonna continue to do it. And I kept doing it. And I remember people would make fun of me, like family and friends would say, "Oh, look at him. He wants to be on Sábado Gigante." That's a it's a show from back in the day, but it's just like a show, kind of like dance, not net dancing with the stars, but singing, like a singing show in a way, kind of. It had a little segment, but getting back to the story, just people would make fun of me or people would tell me, oh, he wants to be the next G-Lo. For if you don't understand what that means George Lopez because I'm Mexican. So they were thinking that I was trying to be that next George Lopez. And it was so embarrassing, so humiliating. At times, I remember I would drive to the club and I could hear people's voices. I could hear people's voices in my head saying, you're a joke, you're ridiculous. And then I remember one time driving to the comedy club and the voices got so loud in my head that I decided to just turn back and I went home. I went to bed crying because my mind had defeated me with the voices of other people that really got to my head and made me want to give up. But I still kept doing the stand-up comedy. I still kept going and showing up. And as I kept doing it, I honestly I was not very good. And people would tell me, hey, maybe you should take up public speaking. And that's when I got into public speaking. And then when I got into public speaking, I started to just give speeches for free. I was also getting better as a comedian, but I absolutely fell in love with public speaking. And I felt like this is my calling, man. Like this is what I was meant to do. I was here to motivate people. And I would give presentations to middle schools, high schools, and I was just doing it for free. And then eventually somebody came up to me and said, "Hey, how much do you charge?" And I said, "Oh man, they want to pay me? No way. I can make money with this? Like, this has got to be a joke." And no, they paid me. And that moment was the day that I said, wow, I want to do this for the rest of my life. Like, I want to talk in front of an audience and get paid for the rest of my life. And that's when my journey as a motivational speaker got started, was through just speaking for free. So for you, if you think about something in your life that you could do even for free, like that you would love to do for free, and let's say that money wasn't an issue, what would that be? What would you want to do with your life? What are the things that would motivate you, that would inspire you? Write that down. Write about 3 to 5 things if you can. Write those things down and think about like what are the things that you can do to get started with that. I know for me, when I first got started, I had no idea what to do. So that's why I hired a coach and I had somebody that could help me, guide me, make sure that they also kept me accountable because I had trouble staying accountable. So for you, if money was not an issue, what would you want to do with your life? If you could just do it for free, what would that be? I want you to really think about that. And then the final thing that I want to share with you is I remember listening to this great mentor, Earl Nightingale. He was like the dean of personal development, like from the 50s or 60s, something around that time. And I remember listening to this guy, and he said something very powerful and very insightful. And he's talked about the biggest secret in the world. And I was thinking, whoa, what is it? What is it? And he said, the biggest secret in the world is that you become what you think about. And at first I was thinking, okay, well, it's a big deal. Like what does that mean anyways? At that time I didn't know what I was thinking. And I really just had trouble with just even thinking. And then this guy, as I kept listening to him, he inspired me. He made me think about my life. And he said, for 1 hour a day, write ideas, just write ideas. And he said, where does money come from? And he said, money comes from the mind. Because when we start to think about ideas and then we create them, they bring money. A lot of the things that you see all over the world, Apple, Facebook, all these companies, it was an idea first in the mind and then they put it into the world, out into the world. So if you start to just write down for even 5 minutes a day, just ideas that start to pop up and start writing them out, then you could eventually create a business. I know for me, the ideas that I came up with was I wanted to be a motivational speaker. I started writing them down. How can I be a motivational speaker? How can I serve? Okay, start sending emails, start reaching out to people, start connecting with people. And then I started getting paid for that. And then I said, what if I become a life coach? And then I wrote down that idea. And then I started getting paid as a life coach. And then I said, what if I become a full-time coach and speaker? What would I have to do that? I wrote that idea down. And then I became a full-time coach and speaker. And I've been doing this for about 10 years now, full-time 5 years. I could have never imagined that I could have been doing this as a full-time coach and speaker. I just couldn't see it in my mind. And again, you become what you think about. So because I couldn't see it in my mind, I wasn't bringing it to life. But once I started to believe it and see it in my mind, I started to bring it to life. And you can do that too. You can absolutely do that too. And then after that, I started to say, okay, how can I write a book? How can I become an author? Wrote it down. I started writing books, started selling books, started helping other people write books. And then I said, hey, radio show. Like, man, I like to do like a podcast or a radio show. And then I wrote it down and then it came to me. A friend of mine, John, said, hey, man, you want to do a radio? I'm like, man, I had been putting that on paper. Heck yeah, like, let's do it. And all these ideas, they came to me. And then I started making money and I started making money doing what I love. So for you, if you're doing something that you don't love, if you're doing something that's making you miserable, you have to be honest with yourself because a lot of people are not honest with themselves. They lie to themselves just to stay in the comfort zone. But if you're being honest, are you happy? And if the answer is no, this will help you to make sure that you start exploring it. These ideas of writing down where are the areas where I'm going through the motions and what can I do to change that? What if money wasn't an issue, what would I be doing with my life? What is something that I would do just for fun, even if I didn't get paid for it? Write that down and take 5 minutes a day to just write down ideas that you could bring to life. And if you do these things and you practice this on a daily basis, weekly basis, those dreams will become a reality. Those dreams that you have been thinking about for months, years, maybe decades, you can make them become a reality. But you actually have to put in the effort and you actually have to start to do the work. It's not going to come to you. Nobody's going to do it for you. Only you can do it for yourself. So for you, drop in the chat. What is something that you're doing that you're just going through the motions? And what are you going to do to change it? What if money was not an issue? What would you be doing with your life? And how many minutes are you going to dedicate to your dream? Remember, this is your dream. This is what you want to do. How many minutes are you going to dedicate a day to something that you could be potentially doing for the rest of your life? Have a great one.